What's up? What's up? What's up? This is Improvement Coach Robert L. Caddy. Hopefully, everyone is tuned in and listening. This is the Health of the Nation. This is what I'm calling the after Juneteenth edition of the Health of the Nation. The after Juneteenth edition of the Health of the Nation. Of course, here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the home of the original Black Wall Street, where we are located. We actually just had what they're referring to as the largest Juneteenth celebration here in the nation, and rightfully so. It makes sense. So this is the after show, and we're going to touch on some things pertaining to the future of Black Wall Street here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Even though our show is particularly all about better health, it's all about better health. It's all about things that pertain to mental health, physical health, spiritual health in general. But we do like to touch on some other things that have an effect upon the lives of people. Okay, so it could be politics. It could be some things that are happening within the communities, the urban community, or just the nation in general. So that's what the Health of the Nation is about. We're so glad that you joined us here on 89.9 KBOB FM. And we have a guest here in the house today, and I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, ma'am. Mic check. Let me hear you say something.
Hello, everybody. How you doing out there?
All right. And let's go. Tell us about yourself. Tell us your name, and then tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Winston. I am a professional counselor. What I do is I've been in my field for about 15 years now. I do mental health therapy. I reach people of all ages, starting with children, adolescents, adults. I have worked in several mental health places. You all might be familiar with them, as far as Parkside, Shadow Mountain. I've done some work in Oklahoma City, which is, believe, Camelot, Red Rock, a few other places. I also I'm doing community based here. So I'm actually in Tulsa, Oklahoma. What I do now is I go out, I kind of provide mental health services to children, adolescents, and adults. I help kind of encourage families to do better, help them build up, help build bridges, help fill in the gaps that most people are missing. Okay. A lot of times mental health people take a lot of pride in situations, and so they really don't reach out and get some of the help they need, especially within our culture. Okay. Our culture kind of hinders themselves and kind of, hey, I don't need help, but they wonder why sometimes they're angry so much or certain things like that. And so what I'll be doing today is kind of helping everybody kind of fill in the gap on how the mental health and the physical part kind of go together, and how having a healthy mind can help create a healthy space for you as an individual.
Excellent. And I heard you mention, Jennifer, you said something about basically just the urban community, which is kind of alarm has been rang here in the last couple of years about the lack of people who are seeking out assistance as far as mental health. Right. I heard you say something about that. How has just that alarm? How has it heightened? Your passion or your desire, to help people now that more people are starting to understand the importance? Or did it even have anything to do with you taking this route as far as a profession? Did it have anything to do with that? Just the need in the African American community for people to go get treatment, go get counseling, or whatever the case may be. Did that have anything to do with you even taking this path of getting engaged in what you do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For me, I grew up out north, Turley, out north, and then I went to McLean. And so I had a lot of challenges that I faced as, an individual, a teenager, growing up in today's society. It was really hard for me. And so it took mentors and certain people at my school and around me to kind of help me, to push me to be the person I am and to be as great as I am now. Okay. And so I feel like without those people, I would not have been able to make it, and my parents included, but I know it takes a village to be able to help children and raise people. And so for me, I feel like it's my job and my duty to go out here and help a lot of the young children or even adolescents. A lot of people kind of figure it out. They don't understand sometimes why they're so angry, because I know that was a big issue for me. Why am I so upset? And so you play it into, okay, well, now I have to help the next person figure out why they're upset. How can I handle this and not end up in jail or incarcerated or doing something else, that they shouldn't be doing, and be able to manage their everyday lives. But
Okay.
I do know a part of my focus is teenagers, young teenagers, let's say like seniors going into adulthood, independent living, these young moms. Sometimes in our culture, it's different on how to be raised and to be and how to go into adulthood. A lot of people don't preach independency, and health and certain things like that. So I do feel like that's my job to help guide the next generation into how to perform independently.
Okay, okay. And that's I mean that's powerful in itself, just to recognize that there were some things within yourself
Right.
that you wish you would have been able to address. You
Yeah.
wish you would have been able to address those things, and I guess identifying what you should have done, and wanting to provide that for other people. That
Absolutely.
really
Yeah.
says a lot about yourself. Um, what would you say, just out the gate, thinking about where you were growing up and different things that you may have experienced? What would you say to anyone who may be dealing with those things, who wants to get better? As far as having the strength, having the courage to take those steps to say, I need to do something different. I need some help. I need to see somebody. I need some assistance. What would you say to them, as far as what is the attitude, what is the perspective that you would say that they should take in moving forward? Because we know,
Right.
it's look in the African American community, it's looked at a certain way. I guess
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's people feel weak, or they feel
Yeah.
like they should be able to handle things.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say as far as their attitude, the perspective that they should take in moving forward?
You know what? I tell a lot of my clients and certain people, I say, put the pride to the side.
Okay.
A lot of people, it's their pride. It's
Okay.
like, hey, how do I tell the next person I have a therapist? Some people have
Hmm.
therapists and they actually hide it from other people.
Hell, therapists got therapists.
Yeah, yeah, I have one. Let's be real. I definitely have one. I meet with her on Mondays,
Okay.
But it's like you have to have somebody else to talk to. Everybody needs that person to vent to and be able to express their thoughts and feelings to. And so if it's a person that you can pay, why not? I can call you anytime and, relieve any type of stress. But I would tell everybody out there, if there's something that you're feeling or you're going through, go out and reach somebody else. Don't be ashamed. Don't hinder yourself or cause yourself to be going through certain things that you could easily kind of get another person to help you work out. You
Hmm.
know, I do know that pride is really it, especially with the elderly. For our culture, oh, they really, sometimes they're like, no. Okay, I
Hmm.
don't want to do therapy. No, I don't need services. But if you find yourself in certain situations, then that's what you should do.
Okay.
A lot of the youth, I feel like you guys that are going through certain things, or if
Hmm.
you're around a certain crowd, or if you feel like you're being bullied or something like that, go ahead and say, hey, mom, I might need some help. I might need somebody else to talk to. I might need that next person to, because your parents can't do it all. And parents, I know sometimes you feel like, hey, I might be doing something wrong if I have to get a therapist, but you're not.
Hmm.
A lot of times you could be doing something so great, but at the same time, that's the next person. Kids need to hear another person coming in. It's that extra help and that extra person that's not fussing at them, telling them to do chores all the time, to come in and vent to and kind of express themselves to, and they'll be able to, trust me, it'll help the whole family overall, because once that child starts to express themselves and get things going, they'll be able to
Hmm.
find themselves um, and be able to express and communicate a whole lot better.
Hmm.
You might even see a whole nother child that you never knew you had.
Okay. So you're saying that, for the parents out there who are wondering if they should seek help, for their kids,
Yeah,
that it's okay, and they should think about that, right? They
absolutely.
should
They
definitely
definitely
think
should.
about that.
Because that's
Hmm.
always something. I know for me, I have friends that are like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go that route. And I'm like, hey, if you're struggling or if you need extra help, go ahead and get it. Because everybody deserves it. Because I know without me, I had strong parents and I had a
Hmm.
strong family, but I still needed that extra help, those extra mentors to be able to tell me, Jennifer, you got this. Okay, go ahead and do this. And it worked out so good for me.
Hmm.
You
Now,
know.
now, now, I would think, probably that, parents probably sometimes maybe feel like would feel like they may have failed, or they're failing,
Mhm.
may feel like they're failing if they have to do that. What would you say to those parents who are thinking about seeking help, for their family or their kids, um, as far as feeling like a failure, as far as feeling like they haven't done what they need to do? I mean, what would you say to encourage them to take the next step?
I would definitely tell those parents to not feel like that, and just to feel like you're just getting support. Even if you have to tell yourself, hey, this is just another mentor or
Hmm.
whatever word that you would like to give it. Change the wording up sometimes. Sometimes
Okay.
that helps people. When they hear therapist, they run. So if you say counselor
Hmm.
or if you use a different term and say, hey, this is your mentor, that might
Hmm.
help the parents feel better. But everybody needs extra support. And so if you have a person who is educated and who can actually reach your children on a different level
Hmm.
and help them pull out their greatness that you know that they have,
Okay.
I say go ahead, step up, and go into it.
Okay. I mean, and another word that I would use is coach.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I would say coach.
that's another word.
Because I guess whatever word is going to help people to get comfortable with sitting down and actually speaking. For one of the things that I've learned about, even I had to learn it from myself, but also working when talking with other people about different things that could be challenges in their life, is quite often, people need to express. They need to be in
Right,
a safe place to talk about things that are going on inside of them.
right.
And quite often, I think, just because of the titles, and people believe that, if this person has this particular title,
Mm-hmm.
that I should be able to do this. But in reality, I guess the fact of the matter is still, I really don't know this person.
Right.
I really don't know this person. And then again, for some people, I believe that it's going to help them, because they feel like they're not going to be judged by someone who knows them, who knows that they're having these thoughts and
Mm-hmm.
having these feelings. So for some people, I guess that helps. But then again, I guess, you get to the point where it's got to be helpful to just develop that relationship. And sometimes
Absolutely.
I would like to think, that it takes time to develop that relationship. Would you say that it takes time to develop that relationship?
Yes, I absolutely would, because when you look at it, with a lot of my clients or certain people I see, it takes weeks to build that relationship. Sometimes when you meet people, you might not even get the full story. You don't get the truth. They're like, hey, I'm going to tell this person what I want them to hear. I don't want them judging me,
Hmm.
and it'll take a few months. And then they're like, hey, this is what it is. This is the story, and this is what I need to talk to you about. And it does take a while, but I say building a relationship is the most important part to even keep the therapy and anything going.
Man.
And without a relationship, I feel like you wouldn't connect with your therapist or anybody to coach or anybody you're talking to, because hey, I just see you just to say hi and bye, and I'm leaving. I'm not gonna tell you what I need to work on or what I really need to do to better myself. I'm just gonna go through the motions with you.
Right.
But I think a lot of people, and that's probably some people's fear too, like,
Hmm.
oh, okay, I'm just gonna get somebody bland, because I have heard that.
Right.
But I say request and look for people that actually fit you.
Hmm.
Find you somebody, pick your own
Hmm.
demographic. If you want a male or female, if you want somebody that is older, somebody younger, pick your own demographic. Go out there, look on Psychology Today, look on other different websites. Look for a person that you would think would fit you or your children, and then approach that person, because you don't always have to pick the first place you call or the
Hmm.
first person you talk to. There's always different options
Okay.
for you to be able to find
Hmm.
services.
And I want to throw this out there, because it really is a hot topic right now, as far as, male and female relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And some would believe that because of the dynamic of the African American experience, that it would be easier for, Black people, African Americans, or any other ethnicity to probably talk with someone who knows something about that experience, because there may be some particular principles that are just the foundation. These are the basics. But then there are what we will refer to as the dynamics of
Mm-hmm.
being an African American male, the dynamics of being an African American woman, and knowing, the whole story, the African American experience. Would you say that, that is important for, couples as well as just individuals? Do you think that that would be important?
Yes. I agree with that, because at the same time, everybody wants to know something like that. Hey,
Hmm.
but there is a drought, I would say. It's not as many African American male therapists as you would want,
Okay.
or as people would need to be able to reach that certain society. So I do encourage certain males, if that is what, their passion or certain things are about, to go ahead and pursue that, because we definitely need them out here. It's not that many, and I know a lot of people do have that preference. And I know for me, as a woman, and I am married, so for me and my husband, when we chose our marriage counselors for us in our home, we chose a man and a woman.
Okay.
And they are our culture, and they have had certain situations
Mhm.
like us, but we found us someone that would be more of a fit, best for us.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, that has always been my thought, and being able to seek any type of counseling or anything to that degree. I mean, there are the basics of psychology. There's the basics as far as the conscious and the subconscious and all of these different things. But the dynamics, again, going back to that word, the dynamics of being an African American male, being an African American woman, understanding the Black experience, and being able to put these things in perspective with what an individual wants, or what is the turmoil, what is the challenge that we know that there's a lot of people who deal with, and it could be, I mean, trauma is trauma. Because I guess abuse is abuse. I guess whatever a person deals with, if it's not healthy, it's just not healthy. It's nothing we can really do about that. But I would definitely think that it's going to help more to have people who know about that, even who have experienced it, right?
Right.
I mean, I know what that's like. I know.
Yeah, because
I dealt with that before.
Our marriage counselors aren't licensed, and they aren't, education wise, but they have that experience. They're those type of coaches that can help you and be able to build you. But like you said, the dynamics to it, the dynamics about that situation is that they're qualified, regardless if it's anything else. I feel like they are qualified mentors and things like that. So I do encourage people, if you do have certain people in your lives that you feel like are of a certain caliber, they don't have to have a certain type of paperwork. As long as you feel like they are a person that'll be able to help you and can teach you certain tools and things you need, go ahead and address them as well.
Okay, that makes sense to me. I mean, and just thinking about the whole conversation that we're having right now, I had mentioned before that this is like the after Juneteenth edition of the health of the nation. Um, would you say for right now, where the nation itself, America, is coming more to grips with its past, would you say that the nation itself probably needs a little needs to get engaged in a deeper level of self-reflection? I mean, not just African Americans, but just the nation in general. I mean, it's a belief of mine is that the nation itself needs some counseling. It need, you. I mean, if America was a person, you need help. You need to sit down and talk to somebody, because there's a lot of things going on inside of you that you're afraid to talk about. There's a lot of things that are going on inside of you, things that have happened, that you're ashamed for the rest of the world to know that happened, and how you really feel about it. So like you say, things like pride and ego get in the way, and you can't say that I did something wrong, or whatever the case may be. Would you say that, as far as the nation in general? I'm not just talking about any particular ethnicity. I'm just saying the nation.
Yeah.
What you think about that?
Yeah. Let me say this first. I do feel like the whole nation does need it, because everybody has their own aspect to it. Different races think that they need to do more, or they feel bad right now, or certain things are like, hey, I couldn't believe that happened. I think so. Everybody as a culture, it just needs to step up and kind of be there for each other. There's been a lot of hate crimes within these years, even throughout COVID. And so if everybody as a nation was to just come together, it would be a whole different aspect.
Okay, and I'm going to say, I mean, we hear this all the time. Everybody says, well, everybody could just come together. Everybody just come, and I always say that the challenge with come together is first individuals looking within themselves to address their own insecurities.
Yeah.
I always say insecurities. In my book, insecurity is the foundation for just calamity in general, almost evil, if you will. I mean, it starts with a person not feeling good about themselves for something that they seen, something that they done, or something that they experienced.
Right.
And so it's like when those insecurities exist. You never know. You never know when certain negative emotions are going to take over. And that's all. I think that's always been the challenge with this concept of people just come together. I mean, because you have to understand that there are so many people who have these insecurities, and it's hard for them to come together with other people. Sometimes it's pride, sometimes it's ego, and then again, it's just people not feeling as if they're not good enough. I'm not good enough. Certain
Right.
things I've done, certain things I've seen, certain things I've experienced, I'm not good
But
enough.
that's what
The
us
deep seated
people,
part.
they have to jump in. They have to say, hey, okay, well, I got to do some self-reflection. I got to look at it and say, hey, what's going on within me, within myself?
Mm-hmm.
What am I missing? Hey, can I do something differently? If I'm sitting here looking at everything and certain things are so hateful or something else, what can I do to change this?
Mhm.
But that's why everybody has to stop and look at themselves. It's easy to point out flaws and look at everybody else and say, okay, it's them. But we have to stop and say, okay, what if it's us?
Mhm.
And what can we do within ourselves to kind of fix the way we're thinking and
Mhm.
looking at society or the next individual or the person next door or, the person in the car driving next to us.
Mhm.
But we have to deal with ourselves and get ourselves together, and then we'll be able to look at things different.
Okay, and since we're talking about that, taking those steps, I mean, this is courageous stuff.
Right.
This is, it takes courage. As we know, it's very easy to look on the outside of us and quote unquote judge and having opinions about what people are doing. But looking in the mirror is something that's very hard. And this is beyond. I'm going to say before you get to the step of even reaching for help, counseling, or whatever the case may be. I mean, we have this, there's this the self-reflection that must take place, and a person feeling comfortable to get engaged in that. One of the things that I've learned is that, quite often, people don't want to go down that journey. They don't want to go down that path of looking into some of the things that we may have done as individuals.
Mm-hmm.
So then again, we just put it to the side and act as if it never happens. But the thing about it, I mean, just the foundation, as far as psychology and how the mind works, we know that if we experience hell, if we hear it,
Right.
I mean, I always use the example that that's why we know songs that we don't even like, right? Because I know the words to that song and I don't like it. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I know it. It's in my mind. It's in my mind. It's going to come out, right?
Right.
And so there's a lot of things that people, as far as the self-reflective part, I think is really important. Really taking that time to look in the mirror and having that courage to say, Bob Caddy, you shouldn't have cussed right there. Bob Caddy, you shouldn't have. And it's okay. It's okay.
Right.
I think a lot of, I mean, just getting before we even get to the point of individual treatment,
Yeah.
getting to the point of saying, you messed up and guess what? It's okay.
Right.
I mean,
But this is how you fix it.
yeah, I mean, first of all, this is the first thing I got to, I have to admit that, I did, it's okay. I mean, it's a mistake. It's funny. I was just talking with a musician, a fellow musician friend of mine, and we were talking about jazz. And one of the things I've always loved about jazz is that I always say that nobody really knows when you make a mistake, because it doesn't matter what a person played. The only thing that matters is what they do afterward, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Nobody really knows, unless you're with a group of people and it's already planned and you've told them what you plan to do and you make a mistake, and they probably would know. They probably would know. But long story short, it almost doesn't matter as much what we did as much as it does what we do afterward.
Yeah.
I mean, and addressing it, because that can fix it.
Yeah.
It can fix it. So I think so many people, once they make a mistake, they make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
It's a it's a big deal. I got to spend time down and crying and all of this kind of stuff. When in reality, I mean, everybody's going to make a mistake.
Right.
There's somebody traumatizing themselves right now, as opposed to accepting the fact that I played the wrong note.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, but guess what? I played the wrong note, and then I'm going to fix it. I'm going to clean it up and play something else that's going to make it beautiful.
Right. But you know what? Mm-hmm. What I notice is a lot of people, when they make mistakes, sometimes they get angry. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying, hey, I made a mistake, let me come back and try to fix it or do something different, they like, okay, I made a mistake. Now, okay, I'm mad at everybody. Oh,
Mm.
you're the reason I made this mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is the reason I made this mistake. Instead of taking that self ownership we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and looking at it like, hey, okay, maybe I did make a mistake. Let me see how I can fix it and move
Yeah.
forward. But that's why seeking help and doing things like that are effective, because you might not notice that's what you're doing when people are saying, hey, you did this wrong. And you're like, okay, everybody said, oh, I always snap on them. But you're not knowing, hey, you might need to go out and get somebody to help
What,
you to
what
be able to help you fix it.
Well, what about this, Jen? I mean, because when I think about this, as I think about some of the TV shows that I see, I never know why certain things are introduced into culture until I watch TV, and then I'm like, oh, that's where that's coming from, because everybody's doing it, and it could be something rude, it could be something disrespectful, but now everybody's doing it because it's accepted. I mean, it's on TV, it's part of culture, it's in the music, and a lot of times people don't know. Let's just say, I mean, for in some instances, people are in environments. This is the behavior that their family exudes. This is how they grew up. This is okay in this particular realm, but I want to go into another realm, and I seem to have challenges going into this other realm with this particular, behavior. But far so that's why I think some people think that they don't have a challenge. They don't have a problem. Hell, all my friends do, all my family do that. I can't be
Yeah,
the problem, right?
yeah, absolutely. Let me explain this part.
Okay.
So we have this thing called an ACE score, and it's basically about adult childhood. And so when I first saw it, I filled it out, and I really scored kind of high. And I was like, how did I get this high? Like, are they saying like I had a lot of trauma in my childhood or in
Mm-hmm.
my life or in my home? And I was like, But I didn't think it was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that bad because it's for culture wise, it's not that bad. These are
Okay.
things we're used to. We're used to, maybe certain language in the home, maybe, getting a spanking or certain things, but those are things we're used to. And so for a certain society, they look at it like, okay, that's not okay. That's just your culture and things like that. But that's what a lot of some therapists do find a certain they find it hard because it's a straddle the fence thing. But for culture wise, it's easier for us to help the next person whose parents are more like how we were raised, because for us, it's not abuse. That's not trauma. This is just something that's within a home that we could do differently. You know what I'm saying? That maybe the generations before them, this is how they were trained. But I think that all went back to further. Not going to get into that, but I think that all started somewhere from slavery. You know how we were
Okay.
all getting spankings and whooped back
Yeah. I
then.
mean,
So then
that's
the
that
people transfer that
yeah,
to
we
their
need to get into
children.
that. We
Yeah,
have.
and then it went to the next
Yeah.
children, and that's just what we do.
Okay.
And so it just keeps going on to different generations. So I do think that there are things they could do differently, but I think that the way that our culture or certain people raise their children is still okay. It's just you have to find that middle ground to make it where everybody is happy with it.
Okay. I mean, I mean, I heard you mention that part, and I know quite often we don't want to go into that because we don't want to provide excuses for things that we're doing or things that we've experienced. But then again, going back to that word, dynamic.
Right.
The dynamic of the, let's just say, the African American experience. I'm not going to discount things in the African American experience no more than I can discount things in the Native American experience.
Right.
I don't know much about the Native American experience. I don't know much about the Irish American experience, but I know there are certain things that they probably went through that developed some negative habits within their culture. So I could go see it could be a teacher. I mean, even I'll put it like this: even when we're in this time and we're talking about this concept of critical race theory, and I'm saying there are basically things about my culture and my life that are important. And one of the things I try not to do is to forget that there are other things about other people's culture that
Yes.
I don't know. And guess what? I don't care.
Yeah.
Now if they tell me it's important to them, I have the duty to respect it.
Yeah.
But I have not done any study to know about the German American holidays or this happened or that happened. I don't know anything about that. And that's why I say that concept of the dynamic.
Yeah.
The dynamic of each culture and what they have been through, and why it's probably important that people seek out help from people who have experienced certain things within that culture.
I
Mhm.
absolutely agree to that, especially when I believe it's the Chinese race. So I'm not sure,
Mhm.
so don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But the attacks that happened in Atlanta, I
Okay.
believe it was last
Yes.
year, and
Yes.
so
Mhm.
I can kind of we can kind of relate to that because
Mhm.
we have certain things that go on, especially in Atlanta or other states. but we don't know exactly what they go through. We don't know how they feel about, always being talked about the Chinese, the nail shops and the Chinese shops, And so each culture does have their own dynamic, have their own diversity and things like that. So yes, when you are looking for somebody, a therapist or someone to talk to, you should find somebody that has dynamics that you want or that fits you and your needs, because you need somebody that can relate and can kind of get to that. I recently ran into, it was an old friend about a few months ago. She called me and she was like, "Hey Jennifer, I have a referral for you for a person." And she was like, "Do you take adults?" I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "Well, she told us she didn't want any of us spoon fed people to be her therapist. She wanted a real therapist who kind of understood her and would know a struggle." And she was like, she said, "None of us here have had to struggle, so we wouldn't understand." And she was like, "I don't know if you struggle, but you might be a good person for her."
Yeah.
And so I was really tickled and taken back by it. But that client was actually being truthful. She told him, like, "Hey, I don't want any of y'all. Y'all don't fit my dynamic.
Right.
This is not what I'm looking for. I need someone that can help me and relate more to me."
Right. I guess that's I'm gonna say that's important. I'm gonna say that's definitely
and
important.
I definitely respected it. They said they respected it, and so their job was to find her somebody that they felt fit her.
Okay. Now, and since we're talking about this, Jennifer, what about the resources? How would a person go about finding the resources as far as groups or mentors or coaches or counselors or whatever they need to refer to them as? How do they go about finding these people? How do you do that?
Okay, so I would encourage everyone. You can go to Psychology Today. There's also Google. I know I am located. You can look me up on Facebook. It's Gen Nation. I have contact information, things like that. You can always message me. But there are several agencies here that are really great. I know we have SKB Brown. She's really good. And then we have New Beginnings, Essence of Youth Counseling. And then there's a few others that are really great that can really help certain people in different cultures and different dynamics and things like that. But I would encourage people to, I would say, talk to somebody, go to the local counseling agencies. If you don't like that one, kind of keep going. But I know Google is a big access for it. And I know Psychology Today is another one. They have multiple people on there. If you do not find somebody that fits you, you can always call that therapist and ask them for a referral and tell them dynamics of the person that you're looking for. Tell them everything, hey, I want X, Y, and Z. And sometimes they will help you. They'll say, "Hey, well, I can refer you here. This sounds like this is a good place for you." And I know Joy's Counseling is a good option. So there are several other good options that are here.
Okay. All right. That's good. That's good to know, because we know there's a lot of people who need that. They need that assistance.
Yes.
And just knowing where to begin.
Yeah.
It's bad enough a lot of times people don't even want to do it.
Absolutely.
But not knowing where to start, that's another reason that could lead to a person feeling defeated when they decide to make that decision.
Yeah.
So something else I wanted to kind of touch on. I know you'd mentioned about it. We actually did a show about it last year, just putting some things in perspective about COVID. Okay, COVID and the effects of COVID on the nation. And we went over a couple of things pertaining to just homeschooling, and there's more parents at home, the kids are at home, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. Do you think the whole COVID experience in America could have left some people with some trauma that they need to seek assistance for?
Definitely.
Okay.
I would say the 80% of the population, including me,
Mm-hmm.
COVID hit really big. I mean, people that you just saw, you could look up and you could see they passed away and you didn't even know how or why. And I know that played a big effect on everyone. Even children. Like, children were in the homes for so long, you know. I know a lot of kiddos experience a lot of depression and anxiety. When you're used to going to school every day and being around your friends, seeing people and, joining your activities, and then boom, one day the world stops and you're not able to do that. That causes a lot of stress on these children. A lot of people are like, "Oh, the kids are okay," but keeping kids locked down in a home, that's not okay. A lot of kids needed to be able to come back and work through it. Even wearing a mask kind of stressed out a lot of kids. They put them.
Yeah, that stressed me out.
Yeah. Right. And so the kids, my class would be like, "Miss Jennifer, I can't do this math," but you have to encourage them and push them, to say, hey, this is the new generation. This is what we have to start doing. And this is, the only way that we can kind of get through this. And so I know that was really hard. Even being in the home, I know a lot of people who struggle with depression and especially anxiety because of their schoolwork. Like parents, a lot of parents were overwhelmed. They didn't know how to help their children, and a lot of children weren't passing. And so I thank goodness our school system figured out on how to help everybody kind of find the middle ground to work it out. But when the kids went back, they still had a lot of anxiety.
Okay.
How do I get back in the classroom? Miss Jennifer, will I catch COVID if I go in the class around my other kids? Even being on the playground, taking their mask off. It was a lot of things that went on. But I do know that I know a lot of people reached out and got help. I would say it was probably about 40, 50 more percent than what's normal that seek counseling.
Wow.
That actually seek counseling throughout COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the COVID experience actually raised the numbers as far as the people who were seeking counseling, and probably in the African American community too. Is that
yeah,
that
definitely.
True?
I know I was getting so many calls. I was like, okay, well,
that means that had to be really bad. That had to be bad because
it hit bad.
I mean, because we know a lot of people. I mean, just like we were saying, the dynamics of the African American experience and what people have been dealing with, what they have dealt with, and there are a lot of people who have not sought out help or sought treatment. But I guess if COVID, if it led a lot of people to take those steps, man, I guess that might be the only thing that came out of COVID that was good.
Yeah, it's one of the main ones.
If that's the case.
But it was a lot of parents who went through anxiety because, a lot of people got laid off work. And so when you're laid off and you have all these bills or all this cleaning supplies you're supposed to have for COVID that you can't afford to go buy, that's a whole nother struggle. But thank goodness there was so many resources out here that were able to provide certain things for clients and certain individuals, to keep people afloat. But that was really stressful on a lot of parents to be able to come up with a lot of stuff. It's money they didn't have that they had to stock up on to get things. And it stressed a lot of people out. But I will say with services, I know that it's kind of keeping everybody to a normal now. It's starting to get back to where everybody is feeling all right. Everybody's getting happy. They're getting back into it. They're starting to get back out. I know since COVID, a lot of people kind of picked up a lot of those COVID pounds. So I encourage a lot of my clients, to use health as a way for their mental health.
Okay.
I do encourage coping skills. And so some of my main coping skills are exercises.
Okay.
You find yourself doing certain things, get out here, go do a little jog, go out here, do some exercises, bend over, touch your toes. You can do the basics, whatever gets you to feeling good, but get out there and start getting it going and get back into getting to the habit of getting out again.
Okay. And I'm gonna ask you this, Jim, because you are a part of the Better program.
Yeah.
And when you joined the Better program, would you say that there was some type of a release as far as stress or you coping skills or things of this nature that came with you cutting the weight, cutting some of the weight, and even addressing some health challenges? Would you say that that helped out as far as your mental state?
Oh yeah, that's what really got me through COVID. Because when COVID first hit, I know I gained I gained the COVID pounds. And so I had to go ahead and go to Better. And I was pretty up there in weight, biggest I've ever been. And so it was no going back for me. Whatever coach want to do is what I'm going to do. And so that was my focus.
Yeah.
I know I had to go in, put the determination in, but it helped my mental, on days when I wasn't, because even though people think, hey, gaining a lot of pounds is okay, but at the same time, sometimes it can affect your self-esteem. Definitely. And so when it affects your self-esteem, you have to get your mind back right. And I needed my mind back right. So I had no choice but to go in there. And I mean, it helped through COVID. It helped everything because a lot of people were scared to go in the gyms because of COVID. But my gym had their own COVID routine, and everybody was making sure we were safe. And so we just went in and we just kept working out. And I mean, the outcome of it. I could see my pictures, I could see the progress, and that self-esteem went up.
Definitely.
I couldn't stop taking pictures, and I couldn't stop being happy for myself. And
I guess that's a part of that connection when we talk about when we put health and fitness and mental health in perspective. We
Mhm.
know the health of the body has a lot to do with the health of the mind.
Right.
And that's one of the places I always start with my clients as a personal trainer. It's not really how fast you can run or how high you can jump. It's really putting some things in perspective about the relationship between the body and the mind.
Mhm.
As we talk about, just the basics, things that are really coming to pass, the simple things that are becoming more and more popular. I have never not talked about. It's the very first thing I talk about, which is proper breathing. I
Right.
don't care if it's, I always say there's different forms that people get engaged in. It could be yoga, it could be meditation, it could be Tai Chi, but it's always going to go back to first and foremost getting oxygen to the brain,
Yeah.
a healthy mind, because we're still talking about brain cells and
Mhm.
what cells need in general, not only brain cells, but cells in general, which is going to be oxygen. This is the
Mhm.
foundation. It's, I'm going to say, it's in the Bible.
Yeah.
And when it says that the first relationship, when it says that God blew a breath of life in, I just told you what's most important here. First of all, I blew a breath of life into man.
Right.
I didn't do anything else. This is what gave you life. This is important.
Yeah.
And once you start to ignore that, it's going to lead to some challenges.
Mhm.
So the relationship between health and mental health, they go hand in hand.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say right after breathing,
Yeah.
I'm going to
But you
say,
know what? It's funny you said that about breathing because that's one of the main things I teach my clients
mm-hmm,
first. And especially when we go into the coping skills, I'm like, hey, and I did get the certain breathing technique from you, but I teach it to them and it works.
yes,
But I tell them, hey, sometimes you have to breathe. If you're so upset
mm-hmm,
and you don't know what's going on, and you don't know how to function, you have to breathe first.
yeah,
You have to get that oxygen to your brain. You have to breathe it in and let it out. And I said, and you can't tell me you don't feel better. And a lot of them do
right.
it, and they're like, okay, and they start to come down. It starts to bring them down. It starts to let some of that anger release itself and starts to let everything go.
Yeah, helps them to deal with a lot of the stress
Yeah,
and depression, because as we talked about, the state of our minds, and things like perspective. For me to make my mind up, I
mm-hmm.
need to be able for me to be able to make a healthy decision. I have to have a healthy mind. So if let's just say
Absolutely.
if I'm holding my breath and my mind is oxygen starved, my body is oxygen starved. I mean, I can't even change my perspective, which is the
Right.
foundation for my thinking. So a lot of the things that people deal with when we get into these things that eventually turn into addictions,
Mm-hmm.
which I would say is another reason why a lot of people don't move forward to get help, is because they actually have become so comfortable in the space of stress and anxiety and depression. And I've been here so long, and it's almost normal to me. It's
Yeah.
really normal to me if everybody I know is experiencing this addiction to anger. This is
Mm-hmm.
just what we do. Oh, I'm comfortable till I
Yeah,
get
my
around
mama
some other
did it. My
people.
daddy does it.
Yeah,
It's okay. This is
yeah,
what everybody
yeah.
does.
Till I get around some other people who don't react that way, and I'm wondering if there's something wrong with them. Then I
Mhm.
may find out something wrong with me, because everybody don't flip out and just slap people, or everybody don't flip out and cuss people. Everybody don't do that,
Yeah.
But I've learned about these addictions, and like we say, what to create the habit. We
Yeah.
always use the numbers 19 to 21 days to create the habit.
Yeah.
We got 30 days, we got 60 days, we got 90 days. And it doesn't matter if it's working out and I'm producing an abundance of dopamine, or if it's me being stressed out consistently.
Right.
But sometimes, if what I'm stressed about, it may not be worth the stress. So sometimes I have to change my perspective on the situation. And for me to do that, I have to have a healthy mind. That's where the breathing comes into play,
Right.
because my mind is healthy enough for me to see it another way. And if I can't see it another way, then I need to see somebody who can help me to see it another way, so I can think about it in another way, so I can feel about it in another way, so I can react another way. So I think that's one of the main reasons that, seeking help is so important.
Yeah. Definitely agree.
Yeah.
Because of all helps it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think again, that note on COVID, um, that was the first time I actually heard or thought about that there was something good that could have come out of that whole experience for America.
Yeah.
Just hearing you talk about how those numbers came up.
Yeah.
Because I guess there's so many people who they just had to do it. they were put in a
Yeah.
sink or swim position, and they had to do something that they had never done before. And I think that's probably going to rub off on the culture.
Hmm.
Would you think
Yeah,
that's
I would
can
hope
you see
so.
it?
I would hope everybody kind of like joins the bandwagon. That's why I kind of preach to my friends
Hmm.
about certain things, and they probably like, okay, Jennifer, you might be a little crazy, but I don't think so. I
Hmm.
tell everybody, hey, yeah, I have a therapist, that's okay, and yes, I have a marriage counselor too. That's
Hmm.
okay, but
Hmm.
you do all these tools to keep everything functioning.
Okay.
And so I think that for society wise, I do think that the therapy will kind of increase because a lot of kids will start going back to school,
Okay.
and some of them have still been at home.
Hmm.
And so that is going to create a lot of anxieties, a lot of
Hmm.
depression, a lot of different behaviors, even for the parents as well.
Okay.
Some parents might have anxiety just for sending their children to school.
Okay.
Hey, they've
Right.
been home this whole time. What if my kids catch this? What if, and so it's actually, it's still, I think the numbers will probably continue to go up
Mm,
because
mm,
there's no way, on how different people kind of approach the situation.
hmm, hmm.
Because I know a lot of people who are still not having their kids go to basketball or different activities.
Right.
And I know for me, it was really hard to put my kids back in a sport,
Mm.
but I had to just go ahead. And so I did experience my own anxiety.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
was
Okay.
nervous. I was scared. I was
Hmm. Hmm.
cautious. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, so I switched to sport, put
Okay.
them in something
Hmm. Hmm.
different so I can get comfortable with myself and my children
Right.
and then say, okay, oh, so now I look at it like, okay, it's not that bad,
Okay.
and so they can go back to the other sports they're
Hmm.
familiar with and things like that. But I do know it has effect on everybody, so I encourage everyone out there, if you are having certain anxieties about COVID or sending your children back to school, or even you stepping back out here because now there's no mask, there's no anything.
Right.
I encourage you to go find somebody to talk to.
Hmm.
Find that person or someone that's going to hear you out, and not judge you, not sit here and take what you say and tell your next door neighbor or tell your home
Hmm.
girl or your home boy or your parents about it. Have somebody that's going to keep it confidential.
Right. And that's something that I want to throw out there too, real quick, because I know there are a lot of people who have relationships. We have friends. We even have family members that quite often, people lean on.
Mm-hmm.
And in leaning on these people, sometimes they get some badass advice.
Right. Yeah.
so, so- and look, they keep leaning on these people, and they keep getting this badass advice,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not helping. But I mean, that's a that can be dangerous because
Yeah.
the results. I think people can develop an addiction to the results. Like we say, it could be anger,
Right.
could be depression, could be this, could be, and people not know that if you keep finding yourself here,
Mm-hmm.
but you're saying you don't want to be here, it's the equivalent of any addiction.
Right.
It's just like a person smoking or doing any hard drugs that says, I really don't want to do this, but I keep finding myself doing this, and I mean, the people on the outside were like, well, if you felt a little better about yourself, you wouldn't do it. But in reality, when we talk about addiction, one thing I always remind my clients, I just tell them addiction runs the show.
Yeah.
Addiction runs the show. So that means that addiction will take over your whole body and your mind. The production of certain biochemicals that your body creates in certain states could be anger, could be depression, could be anxiety, whatever the case. If you've been there for so long, your body's on automatic and it's continuously producing these biochemicals. And guess what? You're going to do the same thing a drug addict does.
Right.
He's going to gravitate.
Yeah.
He's going to find the
Go
drug
back.
man.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? You're going to find something to be depressed. You're going to find something to be anxiety. You're going to find it, right?
Yeah.
So, I
Definitely.
mean, and I'm sure people who are watching and listening, and I know people who seem like they always gravitate towards their addiction.
Yeah.
Is it anger? Is it depression? Is it, somebody's looking for an excuse to cry right now.
Yeah.
Somebody looking
And
for an
they'll pick the
excuse to
smallest
beat
thing.
somebody up.
Yep.
Somebody's looking for it. And if you didn't know better, on the outside, we're thinking that somebody's doing it on purpose.
Yeah.
Little do we know, we're dealing with addicts.
Yeah.
But
They're
look,
used to
I mean,
this.
hell, we all, but we just have the choice to create the addiction what is it that we want to be addicted to?
Right.
That's the question.
Right.
Do you want to be addicted to fitness? Do you want to be addicted to depression? Do you want to be addicted to anxiety? Get there. Like we always say, just get there 19, 21 days in a row if that's what you want. If that ain't what you want, then you need to create the environment where you don't go there. So, I mean, addiction is a powerful thing. You know, I mean, even when we talk about the addiction, the dynamics of the African American experience, and we think about, all the things that people have experienced over the years that, we try to implement into culture and say, this is just what we do. And there are a lot of things there that are based off of addiction. And that we're like, well, this is just what we do. I mean, hell, if it
This
ain't
is our
good,
normal.
if it ain't good, it ain't good. If it ain't healthy, it ain't healthy.
Right.
There's some addiction behind it because it's not healthy and we still choose to do it. So I think we all have to find that point where we confront our addiction. And like you were saying, sometimes that second party outside of us or that third party. If we're talking about relation, third parties are important. Somebody can stand on the outside and look at us, and see the things that we may not see about ourselves.
Oh, because we definitely don't see any of our flaws. And I've noticed that even as me as a person, when I have flaws, I don't see them. I'm like, what are they talking about? And so it does take my therapist to kind of reel me back sometimes and give me the real deal and the normal. And she's like, oh, okay, well, you might want to look at this a little different.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, okay. She has such a great point.
Yeah.
But I would not have saw it and I wouldn't have heard it coming from the next person either. You need that outside person who doesn't judge you, who doesn't know all of the dynamics of certain things. Yeah. And once they give you that clear, clean slate of opinion, you're like, okay. Because a lot of people misjudge therapists or they misjudge us and say, hey, I just need a therapist so she could tell me what to do with this issue or tell me what to do with that issue. But that's not what we do. We actually don't tell you what to do. We help you we give you tools for you to be able to do it yourself.
Yes.
So I can preach to you all day or, you can call your friend and have her tell you what to do. And, it might be the right or wrong thing and it might get you in worse trouble. But if you go to someone like me, I'll give you the tools to be able to do it yourself. I'll help you be able to figure it out to where maybe one day you might not even need me to help you figure out certain problems. You'll be able to have those tools to start thinking on your own, to think differently outside of the box. Yeah. When something happens, you'll be able to work it out. Because I know a lot of my clients, I had a particular client who was, severe with anger and was really angry about a lot of stuff and reacted out here in so many things that could probably get them put in jail. And so, when I tell you they turned the whole 360 and they never thought they could do it. And then they turned around and did it. And they said, you know what, Jennifer, I could do this. You were right. And so when they started noticing they weren't having outbursts, they weren't doing certain things or tearing up certain stuff, they were like, wow, I went 2 weeks and I didn't go off on anybody. I didn't try to fight my, kid's dad. I didn't do this, and that was a really big improvement for them. And so I don't think they knew that they could get the effect that they got. And I know that person kept saying, I'm going to need you my whole life. I said, no, you won't. And so it turns out they did not need me their whole life. They're actually functioning on their own without me, without any fights, without any problems. I would say within the last 6 months. And so that is my job too, to kind of help give tools so people can function on your own. So don't feel like you have a therapist. Your therapist will be with you your whole life. No, we won't. We can come in and out. You might just be going through one particular thing. It might only need a person for 30 days or 3 months or, even a short time. But if you are feeling a certain way at a certain time, push out, reach out, get that help, get the certain people you need to kind of help you push past it, because that might be the only way you're going to overcome those obstacles.
And just hearing you speak about it, Jen, it brings to mind one of my favorite motivational and inspirational speakers. He always talks about high performance people. And he talks about how when you go to different levels, another example, people say new level, new devil, so sometimes having a counselor who can go with you, because you're at a place, and let's just say you get through that, you understand what you're up against, you get through it, you're making progress, but now you move to the next level.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's important to have someone who can go with you? Would that be an advantage, or even you? Would you be someone like that who can help a person to navigate as they go to different levels?
Oh yes. And that's independent living, and especially helping somebody kind of develop their self and move on the elevation level. And I know I have done that with certain people. They started out with only a high school diploma, but they're letting me know, I want to do this and I plan on being this, and so I set them up. And so boom, they were able to complete community college and then, get their trade and to do certain things. And now they're on mid levels to success, but the next step is something else, their
Okay.
bachelor's degree. And so they're
Mhm.
climbing up the ladder, and I'm helping encourage them, because when you go to school, it's not easy. A lot of us who have families, we have children, we have all these people we have to help take care of. And you still can't stop being a mom or a parent, even though you have these dreams that you want to accomplish.
Right.
And so that is a big struggle for a lot of women. And so I do kind of help them and encourage them, like, okay, hey, well, what can we do now? And we continue our counseling, our therapy, and we keep going on levels of how to deal with life circumstances amongst elevating yourself. And so I do know that is one thing that I will start practicing with me wanting to start my own agency.
Okay.
Once I do that, I do plan on reaching those first time moms, those independent living people, even those seniors who are just starting to come out. I want to be able to be the one to help them transition to their adulthood life.
Okay.
Helps them know, hey, you can reach for the stars. Don't sit back and think, okay, well, this is it. No,
Right.
I'm that person who's like, hey, what's next? Okay,
Yeah,
you've
what's
got here,
next?
you got your high school diploma. What's next for you? What is going to be your next task to get? What's going to be our next goal? Because this is not it. High school diploma is good, but we got to reach for the stars.
Okay, so you're saying even as a counselor, once you get to know a client, that you want to develop a higher expectation for them,
Absolutely.
to support them as they develop a higher expectation for themselves.
Yes, and I definitely do that.
Okay.
Especially for those first time people. And I think that's really important, especially for women and in our culture. A lot of people don't have that next person telling them what's next. They're just telling them, you need to go get a job.
Right.
You graduated high school, you need a job, you need
Get
to start
comfortable,
paying bills.
settle out, settle
Yeah.
down. In reality, of course, we're really not made that way. But I think that we get in environments that can compress and depress that fire within us.
Right.
So having that desire, being in that environment that consistently pushes you, that keeps telling you that there's more, that you have more. I think when people get in that other stages, I mean, it's actually a slight depression, would you say?
Yeah. And it definitely puts them there. And then, but some people, they get stuck. And then people are like, hey, 10 years later, what's going on? Why haven't they transitioned? But that's the way they were raised. That's the way their mind is set. And that's all they know and knew. And so that's what they're doing. And so people get stuck, and boom, that first job they get, that's it. That's all. They might not want to go anywhere else, but that's the way they were taught. You get this, and once you get comfortable, that's it. Accept what the world is giving you instead of thinking outside the box and being great and doing what you want to do.
Man, yeah, that's powerful, Jen, and I actually think that that's probably something that we should talk about in the future. Having you on the show and basically putting that in perspective. I know this particular hour we've talked a lot about mental health and the connection between the physical and the mental, but just hearing you talk about that last part, I also think when we talk about the health of a nation,
Right.
and understanding the importance of the woman to the health of the nation, understanding the importance of the woman to the health of the family. I think that's a whole nother show that we should probably plan, just helping, talking about that.
Right.
I think that's going to be a wonderful service, that you've identified and that you want to offer, with your business, with it coming up. That's some of the things that you have planned, because there are many. There are many who want to do more,
Right.
and they, I know, I've been in relationships with, people who felt like they were being bogged down with the responsibilities that
Right.
come with being a woman. And well, I have things I want to do. I have plans. I have this, and now this has happened, and that builds up. And then everybody got to deal with and then then they got a problem, and he got a problem, kids got a problem, So I think that's a brilliant idea, and I'm really looking forward to you moving forward with that whole concept. So we're going to have you back on the show without shadow of a doubt, and we're going to discuss that particular concept. So I want you to take some notes. I want you to discuss some things with some people as far as that concept, and let's go ahead and put those questions out there and be ready to put the answers out there for the people.
Okay.
So
well,
again,
thank you all for having me.
Definitely, without shadow of a doubt, we're going to have you back again. This is Improvement Coach Robert L. Caddy. I'm here with Jennifer Winston, and she will be back on the health of the nation. She will be back, but it is 1 o'clock, and we do have to get out of here. Just a reminder: we are here every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Radio station 89.9 KBOB. We also have a podcast on social media on Facebook, which you'll find the link at, I believe it's KBOB, just KBOB 89.9. If you look that up on social media, you'll find the link to go to the podcast. But again, join us every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, 89.9 FM, KBOB, the health of the nation, where we will be discussing all types of things that pertain to the health, individual health, health of the community, health of the nation in general. So glad that you joined us again, but we do have to go, and we will see you next week. It's getting ready to happen some more.